I almost had a stroke because my daughter-in-law hid my medicine. Then my son kicked me out of his home, saying he can't risk his marriage and peace for me. So I removed him from my will. Then, karma hit them hard. I, 48 male, was married to my wife Evelyn, 46 female, for 25 years. We married young, like stupidly young. I was 23, she was 21, and everyone said we were rushing it. They were right about the rushing part, wrong about everything else. We had our son Bryce when I was 25. We were so happy. Everything was perfect until Evelyn died in a car wreck 2 years ago. Some idiot ran a red light. She didn't make it past the ER. I'm 48 now. Grief does things to your body that age can't touch. 6 months after Evelyn passed, I started getting these chest pains. Thought it was anxiety. Turned out to be arrhythmia. Basically, my heart's electrical system saying, forget this, and misfiring. My cardiologist put me on beta blockers, blood thinners, the whole cocktail. Said I needed to reduce stress. My son Bryce is 23 now. He got married a year ago to this woman named Felicity. I know, right? Felicity. Like a Disney villain's spoiled daughter. I kept my mouth shut at the wedding because Evelyn would have killed me for causing drama. But I noticed things. The way she kept checking her phone during the ceremony. How she corrected the photographer's angles. The fact that she sent back the rehearsal dinner appetizers 3 times because they weren't plated Instagram worthy. But Bryce loved her. Or maybe he just loved that she looked good in photos. Hard to tell with that generation sometimes. When I started getting really sick, fainting spells, couldn't walk upstairs without needing a break, Bryce called me, said I should move in with them for a while. Just until you're stable, Dad. We've got the space. Felicity's cool with it. I called my sister Diane before I said yes. She's 4 years younger than me, never married, works as a paralegal. You sure about this? She asked. Living with newlyweds? I don't have a lot of options. The apartment I'm in now doesn't allow month to month, and I can't commit to a lease when I don't know how long recovery's gonna take. Okay, but Ray, if anything feels off, you call me. I mean it. It'll be fine. At first, Felicity played the part. Real Academy Award material. She'd bring me water with my pills when Bryce was home. Ask how I was feeling. Smile like we were all one big happy family. She'd even made this whole production the first night, setting out my towels in the guest room, showing me where everything was. We want you to feel at home here, Ray, she said with this smile that didn't reach her eyes. The second Bryce left for work, different person. She wouldn't make eye contact. If I asked her something, she'd give me one-word answers without looking up from her phone. I'm not an idiot. I know I'm an inconvenience. I get it. But I'm also a human being who just lost his wife and can barely keep his heart beating at a normal rhythm. I tried staying in the guest room as much as possible. Didn't want to be a burden. Ordered my own groceries with Instacart. Cleaned up after myself. I even started doing their dishes when they left them in the sink. I paid them $800 a month for expenses, even though Bryce told me not to. I left it on the kitchen counter in an envelope every first of the month, but it didn't matter. To Felicity, I was furniture that breathed and occasionally made noise. Week 2, the little digs started. I'd make myself breakfast. Nothing fancy, just eggs and toast. And she'd walk into the kitchen, wrinkle her nose, and spray air freshener while I was still eating. The smell lingers, she'd say. I'd be watching the news in the living room, volume on 15, and she'd walk by and say, "Could you keep it down? Some of us are trying to work." She worked from home doing social media consulting or influencer management or something like that. Another time I made myself lunch, a sandwich, nothing that required cooking, and when I came back from the bathroom, she'd thrown it away. Said it was sitting out too long and she thought I was done. It had been maybe 5 minutes. I started eating in my room after that. Started looking at apartments I couldn't afford. Started thinking about calling Diane, asking if her couch was available. But I didn't want to be a burden to her too. The bathroom situation got worse. They had 2 bathrooms technically, the main one I was using, and the master bath attached to their bedroom. I always made sure to shower either really early or really late, but Felicity started showering at random times. I'd be in there, mid-shower, and she'd start banging on the door. I need to do my skincare routine. Can you hurry up? Week 4, the breaking point came. I was in the shower, 6:30 a.m., way earlier than either of them usually got up. I'm standing there with shampoo in my hair when the water cuts off. Not gradually, just off. I wiped my eyes. Listened. Heard Felicity's voice through the door. Hot water tank's acting up again. Might want to rinse with cold. I stood there for a second, shampoo burning my eyes, and realized she's full of it. The water heater was fine yesterday. I turned the cold water on. Rinsed off as fast as I could. Teeth chattering. When I got out, I checked the utility closet down the hall. The water heater had a timer on it now, one of those smart home things, set to shut off at 6:30 a.m., exactly when I usually showered. I stood there dripping, freezing, and realized she wants me gone. Not eventually. Now. I took a picture of the water heater timer with my phone, started a note in my phone, dated everything. Times, what happened, who said what, the thrown away sandwich, the air freshener mid-meal, the remote grabbing, all of it. I didn't know why I was doing it, just felt like I should. That night, Bryce came home late. Some work thing. I was in the guest room, door closed, trying to calm down my heart rate. The beta blockers only do so much when you're angry. I heard them talking in the kitchen. Felicity's voice carried. I'm serious, Bryce. I can't do this anymore. He's always here, always in the way. I feel like I'm being watched in my own home. He stays in his room most of the time. Most of the time isn't enough. I didn't sign up for this. We're supposed to be newlyweds. How am I supposed to feel comfortable when your dad is sleeping down the hall? I stopped listening after that. Didn't want to hear Bryce's response. Didn't need to. This happened on October 17th, 2023. I'm writing the exact date because what happened next matters. I have this pill, Eliquis. It's a blood thinner that I need to take twice a day, morning and evening. Miss it, and my stroke risk shoots up. My cardiologist was very clear. Do not skip doses. She said, Ray, you miss this medication, you could throw a clot. Brain, lungs, heart, anywhere. Don't skip it. I keep them in the kitchen cabinet, second shelf, next to the coffee mugs. Easy access. I'd been taking them from there for 3 weeks without issue. Same spot, same time, twice a day. I'm religious about it because I have to be. That morning, I woke up with my left arm feeling weird. Not numb, but heavy, like it wasn't getting enough blood. I've learned to recognize the warning signs. This was one of them. I'd had a similar feeling 6 months back, right before the first heart incident that landed me in cardiology. That time, I ignored it for 3 hours. Almost didn't make it. I went to grab my pill around 9 a.m. Bryce was at work, left at 7:30 like always. Felicity was on the couch watching some reality show about rich people screaming at each other. I could hear it from down the hall. The volume was up way louder than necessary, like she was making a point. The cabinet was locked. Not stuck, not jammed, locked. There was a new baby-proof lock on it. One of those magnetic ones you need a special key to open. The kind you use when you have toddlers who might get into dangerous stuff. We don't have toddlers. We have me, a grown man with a heart condition who needs his medication to not die. I stood there for a second, thinking maybe I was confused. Maybe I put my pills somewhere else. Then I saw Felicity glance at me from the couch. She knew. Hey, Felicity? I kept my voice calm. Did you lock the medicine cabinet? She didn't pause the TV. Yeah. Can you unlock it? I need to take my pill. What for? It's not like it's an emergency medication or anything. She glanced at me. Bryce has the key. He'll be home at 6. I felt my chest tighten. Not from anger, from actual physical panic. It is emergency medication. It's a blood thinner. I need it now. Well, I didn't know it was that serious. You should have said something before. She turned back to the TV. Just wait for Bryce. I'm not a violent person. Never have been. But in that moment, I wanted to rip that remote out of her hand and make her look at me. Make her understand that this wasn't about convenience or independence. It was about my heart not giving out in her living room. Instead, I pulled out my phone, took a picture of the locked cabinet, noted the time in my phone. Then I tried calling Bryce. Straight to voicemail. He was probably in a meeting. I called an Uber. My hands were shaking when I grabbed my phone. The wait for the driver felt like 12 hours. My arm was getting worse. That heavy feeling was spreading to my shoulder now, creeping up toward my neck. I kept flexing my fingers, trying to get blood flow, opening and closing my fist. Nothing. The driver took one look at me when I got in the car. Dude, are you okay? You look really pale. Just get me to the hospital, I said. Emergency room. He didn't ask questions after that. Drove fast but careful. Ran a yellow light. I would have tipped him extra if I wasn't so focused on not passing out. The ER doctor was upset when I told him what happened. Not at me, at the situation. His hands were steady when he examined me. You're on Eliquis for arrhythmia and clot prevention? Yeah, twice daily, 5 milligrams. When was your last dose? Yesterday, 8 p.m. He looked at his watch. So you're about 13 hours overdue. My daughter-in-law locked the cabinet. I couldn't get to them. He stopped writing, looked at me. She locked your medication? New baby lock. Said I could wait for my son to get home with the key. He shook his head. Okay. We're running an EKG and blood work. You're lucky. Your arm symptoms could have been a TIA, mini stroke. If you'd waited longer, we might be having a very different conversation. They hooked me up to monitors. Drew blood. The EKG came back okay, but not great. My rhythm was irregular, more so than usual. The blood work showed I was heading in the wrong direction. Another few hours and I might have been in serious trouble. He gave me my dose right there in the ER. Watched me take it. Then he did something I didn't expect. He pulled out his laptop and started typing. I'm documenting that you reported your medication was inaccessible and that you had symptoms consistent with delayed anticoagulation, he said. I'm also noting my clinical assessment that the delay created an elevated risk of thrombotic event. Why? Because if something happens to you, there needs to be a record. And because what she did isn't just negligent, it's dangerous. He printed out 2 copies of his report, handed me one. Keep this. If you ever need it, you've got documentation. Then he asked if I felt safe at home. I lied and said yes. They kept me for 4 hours. Observation, they called it. Making sure my levels stabilized. Making sure I didn't throw a clot while I was sitting there. I stared at the ceiling tiles and thought about how I got here. 48 years old, hooked up to a heart monitor in an ER because my son's wife decided my medication wasn't urgent. Bryce showed up around 8 p.m. I was still in the ER bay, hooked up to a monitor. He looked stressed, kept glancing at his phone, had his tie loosened, jacket off, like he'd rushed over from work. But the first thing out of his mouth wasn't concern. Geez, Dad, you couldn't just wait? Not, are you okay? Just annoyance. She locked the cabinet, I said. I couldn't get to my pills. She was trying to organize. She didn't mean... Bryce. I cut him off. She told me I wasn't old enough to need it right away. I had to Uber here because my arm wasn't working right. He rubbed his face, sighed like I was being dramatic. Okay, look, Felicity's under a lot of stress. She's not used to having someone else in the house. And you know how she is about locked cabinets? She's worried about break-ins. We live in a gated community. Dad, his voice dropped, firm. The way you talk to a dog that made a mess on the carpet. I'm asking you to cut her some slack. She's doing her best. I stared at him. This kid I raised. The one Evelyn and I drove to soccer practice and helped with college applications and taught how to change a tire. The kid who called me crying at 2 a.m. during his freshman year because he was homesick, and I drove 3 hours to campus just to take him to breakfast. He was looking at me like I was the problem. She locked my medication, I said slowly. That's not stress. That's cruelty. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being... Enough. He stood up, grabbed his jacket. I'll talk to her, okay? But Dad, you gotta understand, I can't risk my marriage for this. Felicity's already talking about how uncomfortable she is. If this keeps up, I'm gonna have to ask you to find somewhere else. Find somewhere else. Like I was a bad tenant. Like I wasn't his father. Like Evelyn hadn't spent 14 hours in labor bringing him into this world. Like I hadn't worked double shifts to pay for his braces. Like we hadn't remortgaged the house to help with his college loans. I didn't say anything, just nodded. He left 20 minutes later. I sat there in that ER bay for another hour, watching the heart monitor beep. The doctor came back before they discharged me. You have somewhere else to go? He asked. My sister's. Good. Go there. Tonight if you can. He handed me another copy of his report. Keep this somewhere safe, not at their house. I tucked it in my jacket pocket. When they finally let me go, it was almost 11 p.m. I called Diane. My sister Diane came to pick me up from the hospital. When I called her from the ER, she didn't ask questions. Just said, I'm coming. She didn't say anything on the drive home. Back to Bryce's place, because where else was I going to go? But when we pulled into the driveway, she turned to me. Engine still running. House lights on inside. I could see Felicity's silhouette through the kitchen window, scrolling on her phone. You're not staying here. I've got a spare room. It's small, but it's yours. She looked at me, I told you 2 weeks ago my door was open. I meant it. Diane, I can't. Shut up, Ray. She said it soft. Evelyn would kill me if I left you here. You know that. I felt something crack in my chest. Not physical, emotional. I haven't cried since the funeral. But sitting in my little sister's car, realizing she gave more of a darn about me than my own son, yeah, that broke something. I'll help you pack tomorrow, she said. When Bryce is at work. I nodded. Couldn't speak. She squeezed my hand. I packed my stuff the next day while Bryce was at work. Didn't take much. Most of my things are still in storage from when I sold the house. Clothes, laptop, medication, a few of Evelyn's photos I kept in a shoebox, wedding pictures, her and me at the Grand Canyon on our anniversary, Her holding baby Bryce in the hospital, looking exhausted and perfect. More than 2 decades of marriage fit into 2 duffel bags and a backpack. Diane showed up at 10 a.m. Brought moving boxes even though I told her I didn't need them. Just in case, she said. Felicity watched from the kitchen island, sipping an iced coffee. She was scrolling through her phone like I wasn't even there, like I was part of the furniture finally being removed. When I zipped up the last bag, she looked up. Guess you couldn't handle it, she said. I stopped, looked at her, really looked at her. She was smiling. Not mean, not cruel, just satisfied, like she'd been waiting for this moment. You got what you wanted, I said. I got my house back. She took another sip. No offense. Diane was standing in the doorway. I saw her jaw tighten. She looked at Felicity like she wanted to say something. I shook my head. Not worth it. I left the $800 envelope on the counter. Last month's rent. Inside was a note. Paid through the end of the month. Won't be needing a refund. Then I walked out. Diane gave me her room and took the couch. I told her I'd take the couch. She's working full-time. She needs sleep. But she wouldn't hear it. You're recovering from a heart condition, she said. I'm recovering from a bad hinge date. I think I can handle the couch. The apartment was quiet, not silent. You could hear the neighbors, traffic outside, someone's TV through the wall, but quiet in a way that felt safe. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. That first night, Diane made spaghetti. Nothing fancy, just pasta and jarred sauce and garlic bread. We ate at her tiny kitchen table. She just asked if I wanted seconds. I'm good, I said. Thank you. For this. For everything. She shrugged. That's what family does. I wanted to tell her that apparently not all family does that. But I didn't need to. She already knew. 3 days after I moved in, I sat down at Diane's kitchen table with my laptop and a legal pad I'd grabbed from CVS. Made myself coffee from her French press. First decent cup I'd had since leaving Bryce's place. Diane walked in from her morning run. Saw me typing. What are you doing? Fixing my will, I said. Called an estate attorney. Meeting him October 23rd. She stopped mid-stretch. Wait, you're changing it? Darn right I am. She pulled out a chair. Sat down. Ray, listen. I kept typing. Didn't look up. What happened at Bryce's wasn't just terrible. It was dangerous. Felicity locked my medication. I ended up in the ER. Bryce defended her. You think I'm leaving those two a single cent after that? I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying make sure you're thinking clearly. I am. I finally looked at her. I've been thinking clearly since that hospital bed. If I died that day, if my heart gave out while I was locked out of my pills, Bryce would have inherited everything, and Felicity would have gotten her hands on the money Evelyn and I spent 25 years building. Diane leaned back, crossed her arms. Okay, so what's the plan? Everything goes to you. Not because I need you to handle it, because I trust you won't give them anything. Fair enough. She grabbed the legal pad, started reading my notes. Who's the attorney? One of your firm's contacts. Figured if he's good enough for your clients, he's good enough for me. He is. Let me come with you. Fine, but I'm running this. Didn't say you weren't. I laid it out for the lawyer. No nonsense. Evelyn's death, my health, living situation, the medication lockout, the ER report. I'd brought everything, printed, organized, dated. Evelyn always said I had a thing for documentation. Guess she was right. He took notes. Didn't react much. When I finished, he looked at me over his glasses. Do you want your son to inherit? No. You sure? Courts don't care about hurt feelings, but they care a lot about testamentary capacity and undue influence. If we're changing your estate plan, I need to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and we're documenting everything correctly. He chose his wife over my life, I said. I've never been more sure of anything. He nodded. Okay, here's what I recommend. New will everything to Diane. No contest clause, but here's the thing. If we leave him nothing, there's nothing to forfeit, he said. I recommend leaving him $1,000, just enough to make the clause enforceable. If he challenges it, he loses the 1,000 and it goes to charity. Make it $100, I said. He cracked a smile. $100 it is. And if he contests, that 100 goes to the American Heart Association, in Evelyn's name, for arrhythmia research. Perfect. That's got teeth. The rest came fast. Revocable living trust to bypass probate. No public circus, no months of waiting. No way for Bryce to drag it out. Changed every beneficiary on every account. IRA, 401k, pension, life insurance policies. All of it from Bryce to Diane. Power of attorney, healthcare proxy, advance directive, HIPAA authorization. Everything went to her. Airtight, no loopholes. Last thing, he said, I want a letter from your cardiologist, confirming mental competency. If your son contests this, his lawyer's going to argue you weren't in your right mind. Grief, medication, undue influence. A doctor's letter shuts that down. I'll get it. I called my doctor that afternoon, explained the situation. She didn't hesitate. Had it ready the next day. Clinical, boring, exactly what we needed. Confirmed I was oriented, making clear decisions, no cognitive issues. We signed everything October 30th, 2023. Conference room, 2 witnesses, notary. I understood perfectly. I signed, and signed, and signed. My hand cramped by the end, but it felt good, like I was finally taking back control. The lawyer kept the originals in his office safe, gave me and Diane copies in a sealed envelope. You're set. If something happens, your sister's in control from minute 1. No probate, no waiting, no drama. Walking out of that office, I felt lighter. Not sad, not angry, just done. Like I'd finally closed a door that should have been shut months ago. That night, I pulled out a notebook, started going through my assets one more time. Diane came in. Need help? Nah, just double-checking. She poured tea, sat across from me. You know they're gonna lose their minds when they find out. Let them. By the time they figure it out, it'll be too late to do anything about it. You thought about what you want to happen to the money? Long term? I had. I want some of it to go to the American Heart Association, in Evelyn's name, for arrhythmia research. How much? 20 grand. We went through a few more. Grief counseling nonprofit. Scholarship fund for kids who lost a parent. By the end, I had $50,000 earmarked for donations. All in Evelyn's name or mine. None of it to Bryce. The rest would stay with Diane in trust. Use it for something good. Just don't let them have it. I won't. Over the next 2 weeks, I kept detailed notes. Not because Diane told me to, because I knew this was going to come back around eventually. And when it did, I wanted every receipt. Changed every password. Email, bank accounts, investment accounts, insurance portals. Everything. Set up 2-factor authentication. Then I went through and removed Bryce from every emergency contact form. Doctor's offices, pharmacy, insurance company, bank. Anywhere his name was listed, I replaced it with Diane's. Then the documentation. Date, time, what happened, who was present, what was said. The medication lock, the water heater timer, the thrown-away sandwich, Felicity's comments, Bryce's response at the hospital. Every petty thing, every dangerous thing. All of it documented. I printed the ER report the doctor gave me. The one that said medication access delay due to intentional interference by household member. Put it in a binder. Page 1. Then I screenshot every text from Bryce, every call in my phone log, printed them, dated them, put them in chronological order. The will was changed. The trust was set. The beneficiaries were updated. And when Bryce and Felicity finally figured it out, they'd have nothing. No inheritance, no control, no leverage, just consequences. And honestly, that felt perfect. I thought about reaching out to Bryce for 3 days. Wrote messages, deleted them, stared at my phone like it owed me an answer. But I never sent anything. Instead, something else happened. November 14th, 11:47 p.m. My phone buzzed with an email notification from my health portal. Login attempt from unrecognized device. Location: San Diego, California. I wasn't in San Diego. I was on Diane's couch. I called the hospital's patient services line the next morning. Asked them to pull the logs. The rep put me on hold for 6 minutes, came back and said, "Yes, sir, we show an attempted login at 11:47 p.m. on the 14th. The system flagged it and blocked access. We've logged the IP address and device ID per protocol. Can you tell me who tried? We can't confirm identity, but it looks like someone tried using an old login tied to an authorization you had on file." I thanked her, hung up, forwarded the email and call summary to the lawyer. He called me back in under an hour. "Ray, I'm sending a letter. Certified mail. Today." "What kind of letter?" "The kind that makes things clear." He paused. "And Ray? Don't text him. Don't call. Don't tip your hand. Let the letter speak." The lawyer's letter went out November 15th. I saw the draft before he sent it. Law firm letterhead. No emotion. Just facts. Ray is represented by legal counsel. All communication must be directed through my attorney or Diane. Effective immediately, Bryce's access to my medical records has been revoked per HIPAA authorization forms, filed November 15th, 2023. Effective immediately, Bryce's access to my financial accounts has been revoked and all passwords have been reset. Any further attempts to access protected information or contact me directly will be documented and referred to law enforcement as necessary. Bryce signed for the letter on November 22nd. I know because the lawyer got the tracking receipt. I didn't contact Bryce. I didn't warn him. I just let the paper handle it. Radio silence after that. No call, no text, nothing. Diane said that was good. Means he's either talking to a lawyer or he's too scared to engage. I didn't care which. I just wanted him gone. But here's the thing. I'd already locked everything down weeks ago, changed every password, turned on two-factor authentication, removed Bryce as my emergency contact at the hospital, the cardiologist's office, and my bank. The lawyer had the papers. Diane had the authority. Bryce was already cut out. He just didn't know how much yet. Part of me still wanted him to come back, to apologize, to prove I was wrong about him. He never did. 2 weeks after the certified letter, I'm sitting on Diane's couch. It's 2 a.m. Can't sleep. My chest hurts, but I don't know if it's the arrhythmia or just everything. I checked my pulse and stared at the clock until the numbers blurred. Bryce hasn't called, hasn't texted. Felicity posted an Instagram story yesterday. Her and Bryce at some rooftop bar. Big smiles. Caption, finally getting our space back. I'm not gonna lie, that hurt, but I also don't regret leaving. I don't regret the will. I don't regret cutting him off. Some relationships don't deserve a repair job. Diane keeps telling me to let it go. Move on. Focus on getting better. And she's right. But part of me wants Bryce to know, really know, what he did, what he chose, what he lost. I started writing everything down. Diane said it's therapeutic. Maybe she's right. Maybe it helps. Maybe it doesn't. But I keep doing it anyway. This is Diane, Ray's sister. Ray died 2 days ago, December 8th, 2023. Heart attack. He never got to finish this post. He asked me to post it if something happened to him. So here I am, finishing what he started. Everything above was his words. Everything below is mine. Ray had a heart attack 2 days after he wrote that last part. We were watching TV, some dumb cooking show he liked, and he just grabbed his chest, said it felt like someone was standing on him. I called 911, did chest compressions while on the phone. The paramedics got there in 8 minutes. They worked on him in the apartment, then in the ambulance, then in the ER. He coded twice. They brought him back both times. Third time, they couldn't. Time of death, 11:23 p.m. After they called it, the room went weirdly quiet. Not peaceful, just empty. I remember staring at his hands because looking at his face felt like my brain would split. My fingers wouldn't stop shaking, so I shoved them under my thighs and tried to breathe like a normal person. He was 48 years old. I kept thinking 48 isn't even old. It's still has passwords he refuses to change age. I went home with his phone in my pocket and couldn't bring myself to turn it off. The doctor said it was a massive myocardial infarction. His heart gave out. They said the stress from the last few months, losing Evelyn, the betrayal, the living situation, it all added up. Ray had high blood pressure and a family history of heart disease. His body couldn't take it. I was holding his hand when he died. He wasn't conscious. Didn't say any last words, just stopped. Bryce and Felicity showed up to the funeral. Both of them. Dressed in black, tissues in hand, the whole performance. Felicity cried. Actually cried. Hugged me and said, "I'm so sorry for your loss." I wanted to slap her. Bryce gave a eulogy. Talked about how much Ray loved being a dad. How proud he was of Bryce's accomplishments. How complicated their relationship became at the end. But how he knew deep down Ray loved him. I wanted to vomit. I held it together in the building. I didn't hold it together in the parking lot. I sat in my car with the heat blasting because I couldn't stop shaking, and it finally hit me that I was going home alone, while the two people who helped break him were still getting to play family. The estate notification came 3 days later, December 11th. The lawyer didn't do a formal reading. He sent certified letters with return receipt to both me and Bryce. Clean, simple, no drama. The letter outlined the basics. Ray's will and trust had been executed. All assets were going to me as sole beneficiary, except for a $100 bequest to Bryce. And per the terms of the no contest clause, any challenge would result in forfeiture of even that token amount. Bryce called the lawyer's office within an hour, demanded a meeting. The lawyer scheduled it for the next day, December 12th, at 2 p.m. Next day, the lawyer met with me, Bryce, and Felicity in a conference room that smelled like printer toner and fake sympathy. The lawyer laid it out flat. I tried to keep my face neutral, but hearing Ray's name said out loud like it was just another file on a desk made my throat tighten. I stared at the paperwork until it passed. Ray had transferred almost everything through the living trust and beneficiary changes, life insurance, retirement accounts, the proceeds from selling the house. The house sale brought in around $300,000 after paying off the mortgage. Life insurance was another $400,000. His 401k and IRA combined were close to $500,000. Total value around $1.2 million. Most of that wasn't cash sitting in a bank. It was retirement accounts and life insurance that added up fast once you actually look at the paperwork. Bryce got $100. If he contested, he'd lose even that, and the money would go to the American Heart Association in Evelyn's name instead. The lawyer had the documentation ready. The will, the trust paperwork, beneficiary change forms. A letter from Ray's cardiologist dated October 24th confirming he was mentally competent when he signed everything. 2 witnesses, a notary, every box checked. Bryce went white, then red, then purple. Felicity stood up. This is garbage. He was clearly not in his right mind. He was fully competent, the lawyer said. Everything's documented. You can contest if you want, but you'll spend money on lawyers. Discovery will pull up the hospital incident from October 17th and the cease contact letter from November 15th, and you'll still end up with nothing. Your call. Bryce looked like he'd been punched. He'd forgotten about the letter, or hoped we wouldn't use it. Felicity turned to me. Her face was twisted, ugly. You manipulated him. You poisoned him against us. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who locked my brother's medication, who mocked him as he left, who showed up to his funeral crying crocodile tears. I didn't have to, I said. You did that yourself. She got in my face and tried to step into me. The lawyer's assistant moved between us before it went anywhere. Felicity was yelling now, calling me names, saying I stole what was rightfully theirs. The lawyer stood up. This meeting is over. If you make any further threats, I'll contact the police. Bryce dragged Felicity out. She was still screaming in the hallway. Over the next 24 hours, Felicity called me 47 times, sent me 30-plus texts, including threats like, "You're gonna regret this," and "We'll make your life a living nightmare." She showed up at my apartment building. The doorman had to escort her out. She posted on Facebook that I scammed Ray and stole from her family. I saved everything. Screenshots, recordings, logs. Every single piece of evidence went into a folder. Then I went to the courthouse. Filed for a temporary restraining order against both of them. The clerk processed the paperwork same day. Took about 3 hours total, filling out forms, waiting for a judge to review, getting the order signed. The TRO went into effect immediately. No contact, no proximity, no communication. A process server delivered copies to Bryce and Felicity on December 14th. Proof of service got filed the same day. The lawyer also sent them a cease and desist letter the same day. Laid out that all harassment must stop. Any further contact would be reported. Any attempt to contest would trigger forfeiture. And any defamatory statements exposed them to a civil lawsuit. Felicity deleted the Facebook post within 2 hours of being served. The calls stopped. The texts stopped. Radio silence. The quiet didn't feel good at first. It just felt like my body finally noticed how tired it was. I slept in 2-hour chunks and kept checking the front door like I was expecting her to show up again. The restraining order hearing is set for January 9th, but honestly, I don't think they'll show. The harassment stopped cold the second they got served. They know they're screwed. There was one snag. The bank initially rejected one of the IRA transfer forms because the notary stamp was partially cut off during copying. Had to get it re-notarized and resubmitted. Cost us an extra week, but it's done now. Ray and I had actually done it. We'd built a legal fortress, and it held. I'm taking $50,000 of Ray's money for donations in his and Evelyn's names. American Heart Association, grief counseling nonprofits, scholarship funds, hospital cardiac units. The rest goes into a trust. Every cent will honor him. Not Bryce, not Felicity. Him. Ray spent the last few weeks of his life writing that post. He'd sit at my kitchen table with his laptop, typing, deleting, retyping. Sometimes he'd read parts out loud to me and ask if it sounded right. I told him it sounded angry. He said, "Good." But between the writing, we were planning. The estate docs, the power of attorney, the beneficiary changes, the documentation, every safeguard we could think of. Ray did 90% of the revenge by planning. I'm doing 90% of the enforcement by executing. That's how it was supposed to work. Big brother sets the trap. Sister springs it. He wanted people to know what happened. He wanted Bryce to see it, though I don't think Bryce ever will. He doesn't strike me as the Reddit type. But the rest of you? You're reading this. You know what happened. I don't get to fix December 8th. I don't get to unsee them crying at the funeral like they didn't help push him there. What I can do is make sure the last thing Ray built actually stands. The trust held. The transfers went through. The harassment stopped the second paperwork showed up. If you pray, pray for Ray. If you don't, just remember him. Rest easy, big brother. You deserved better. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.